Wait, what? Captain Yami did what? He smoked them. He smoked them all! A big thank you to our $5 patrons, Strawbones, Redwolf4765, Midnight Gem Lord, and Ardagoon555. And now, before we come to this breakdown / review of chapter 342, Bars of Black Clover, please don't forget to leave your comments on the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come with the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as count them, $1 a month to get these exclusive videos, early content, and more. Now, let's hop into the review. What's up, guys? I'm Clover, and here we are to do a review of chapter 342 of You Know Who, Bars Black Clover. And this chapter happens to be known as Watch the Night. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm really not. Like, I've been hearing it. I've been hearing it worldwide. Everyone feels like Black Clover is just ripping off everything else. And no. but enough of that. Let's hop right into the review. So we open up, and we do get to see that Ichika actually begins to give a little bit of background on her clan, the Yami clan. And she explains that they're actually descendants of a group of assassins known as the Kijin. Or Kijin. I'm not sure if I'm mispronouncing that, like I've been mispronouncing Grimoire for the past however many reviews I've done. Please correct me down below. I'm going to read it as Kijin for now. And we see that apparently during the age of wars, their ancestors were distinguished on many battlefields. They were powerful warriors, and due to their family lineage, they all seem to be darkness wielders, in a very similar way that Yami does, where he coats his blade in darkness. You see the many Yami clan of the past doing the exact same thing. And it's interesting to see that they come from a clan of, serial unalivers, mainly because if you take a look at Ichika, she doesn't necessarily fit the description very well, and even Yami, while he has a rather ominous presence, it's ominous, it's not necessarily subtle. Typically when I think of assassins, I think of quiet, move within the night, shadow beasts wandering about, ready to slay you at a moment's notice. Meanwhile, Ichika seems rather subdued in not the assassin way, and Yami seems rather explosive in not the assassin way. So it's interesting to see that they are descendants, not actual Kijin. And with that being the case, we see that not only were the Yami clan originally assassins, they were also warriors placed in charge of security of Goshu, a territory that was at the far edge of the Land of the Sun, ruled by the Ryudo clan. And obviously, considering Ryu is now the leader of all of the Land of the Sun, it seems very interesting that this clan and their specific breed of warriors were tasked with guarding his family. Seems very, very interesting. It makes you wonder, were they involved with the Ryudo clan's rise to power? Notably, Ryuya is the ruler of all of the Land of the Sun. If we're to believe what he said so far, the entire Land of the Sun is under their control now. Not just a small territory at the far edge of the Land of the Sun. So I wonder, maybe if the Ryudo clan had any sort of enemies, issues, people of political power that could hypothetically rival them. I wonder if the Yami clan was the ones responsible for making them disappear, getting them up out of here. That's the beauty of darkness. No one can see you, and you can get a lot done when no one is watching. Just think of the Ring of Gygas scenario. Would people still be moral if they couldn't be seen? Highly doubtful. And apparently we see that along this coast, along this side of the Land of the Sun, is the Dark Sea. Because according to legend, in the distant past, there was a raging dragon of 5 heads who had to be quelled by a heavenly maiden. However, of course, this beast may not fall without any sort of repercussions, and apparently it was said that the Yorioku of that dragon seeped out, turning the sea black and stagnant, twisting space and time and connecting it to the underworld. And when I tell you, this has been a head scratcher. I've been leaping back. The only thing that I can think of is that this was a multi-headed demon. Not a dragon, but a multi-headed demon. Because we've seen that, I believe we've seen in the series that these creatures can fuse together, or at least be forced together. Like, remember Lilith and Nama? They managed to merge. However, they only have one head. So I'm not sure. But the idea that there's dragons, like, have we seen? I don't think we... Please correct me if I'm wrong. We probably have, but I don't think we've seen... I'm going to Google it right now. Hold on. Yeah, I can't think of an appearance of a dragon anywhere previously in Black Clover, despite how magically influenced the verse is. And for a 5-headed dragon to exist, and specifically to cause a, like, space-time rip with the ocean turning black and stagnant due to their Yorioku, their magic, I don't know, something seems a bit off about that. I'm assuming it has something to do with the underworld, especially considering the myth is that apparently this Black Sea takes you to the underworld. I don't know. And this Holy Maiden is another thing that's up in the air. Obviously, there's been, like, theories upon theories upon theories upon theories. Like, I can't do theories because I'm not smart enough. But I know there have been theories everywhere about the whole idea that, you know, angels very likely do exist within Black Clover. If we have the underworld, we gotta have a heaven equivalent. And with that being the case, the Heavenly Maiden isn't the thing that has me all scratching my head and scratching and stroking my beard. Like, I don't think that's the issue. It's the 5-headed dragon. And 5 heads is so specific, right? Because 1-head dragon is just a regular dragon. 3 heads, for some reason, I directly associate that with the Hydra. Even though I know the Hydra's... No, Hydra's 8-headed. And Yamato no Orochi... Hold on, let me see. How many heads did they have? So Orochi were actually... Okay, so Orochi had 8 heads. I was thinking the same thing with the Hydra. So 5 heads is an oddly specific number. And I'm looking at it. Maybe there's something in another mythology that I'm not all too familiar with, but 5 heads seems like such an oddly specific number. And it's specifically described as a dragon. I don't know. It seems strange. I feel like there's going to be some reason for that. I think this does tie more into the underworld and whatever the Heaven equivalent is in Black Clover versus just like, oh yeah, there were once dragons. And like, notably, it's just casually mentioned here, like, a 5-headed dragon. But when I Googled, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe the Black Clover Wiki doesn't have anything on it. But there hasn't been dragons. There have been attacks named for dragons. Like, I know Noel's sea dragon is a dragon. I know there have been fire dragons. But those haven't been, like, the closest thing we've gotten to, like, a flesh and blood dragon was Salamander. And Salamander is not flesh and blood. It's a spirit creature. So I don't know. Very, very interesting that this creature came along and ended up soaking the seas and connecting it to the underworld. Of course, supposedly, this is just according to legend. And this hypothetical space-time rift, twisting space and time, is why it sort of makes sense that people couldn't sense where Asta went. But if that's the case, how did Yami get there? Like, notably, we do have the explanation, I think it's even brought up in this chapter, that Yami just went fishing, got dumped over, and ended up in the Clover Kingdom. But now that doesn't seem possible. Like, I could believe that before we knew there was this, like, massive, mystical, magical, dimension warping sea there. But, like, if this really is supposed to connect you to the underworld, unless, ironically enough, unless the Land of the Sun is the heaven equivalent, I don't know how Yami could have just stumbled into the Clover Kingdom. Seems a little bit strange, seems a little bit fuzzy, seems a little bit weird. I do like this. It's interesting how much Tabata, like, this is the final arc, quote unquote. This is the end. But it seems like Tabata is very keen on, like, sliding in a lot more mystery, a lot more questions, a lot more things to be answered right here at the end. Like, usually, in most final arc scenarios, we aren't necessarily adding too much. We may have a time skip or two, but no, we not only have a time skip, but we're having all this new lore and data and stuff like this shoved on us. And I wonder how much of it's going to end up being relevant. Who knows? I spent a whole ton of time talking about this dragon, and it may not even have been that. I still think it hypothetically would be a demon or two from the underworld that just happened to have fused or something like that, fused them perfectly and ended up needing to be subdued by an angel. But who knows? Who knows? We're in a very weird spot. However, we do get to see that the dark sea connecting them to the underworld is not the only issue that Ichika had to face when she was young, but it was also something else. A man declares, "It just ain't right. Our ancestors..." How do I do a voice for this?
It just ain't right. Our ancestors were proud spirit swordsmen. Now we're stuck out here in the boonies, just guarding this territory. This job's for the dogs. Our clan's blood and Yorioku are crying. Ain't that right, Sugihiro?
I don't know how to do Yami's dad's voice. And now that I realize it, huh? Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Let me rewind. Let me take a step back. Yeah, something shady happened. The Yami clan is descendant of a group of assassins of the Kijin. During the Age of Wars, our ancestors distinguished themselves on many battlefields. Yeah, okay. Then, as warriors, they were placed in charge of the security of Doshu, a territory at the edge of the land ruled by the Ryudo. Huh. So the Ryudo clan, at least if this is to be believed, right? Because Yami's dad isn't talking about them being like the guardians of the Ryudo clan, they who rule over all of the land of the sun. They are still talking about Goshu. So is this in the time of wars? Then again, actually, no, that does make sense. That does make sense, because I believe last chapter, Ichigo said that Ryudo did unite. Okay, so yeah, it was Ryudo who united all of the land of the sun. That's interesting. That's a little bit concerning. That's interesting. This is definitely, something's definitely wrong. Like, I now I have more questions than I had before. Things just got 10 times as complicated, but we'll get into that. So we see that the only person who really cares about their whole like weird standing and how they suck compared to how their ancestors were and how they're just stuck in the boonies doing nothing, apparently it's only Yami's dad who cares about that. Like, Yami himself, or I suppose Sukihiro himself, is like, you're the only one who says that stuff, Pa. And we see that obviously Yami's dad isn't a little too happy that his son is like, huh? You devaluing my suffering, boy, ought to beat some more suffering into you. And we see as Ichika runs to take care of Yami, and she tries to plead with her father for like, hey, you know, maybe we shouldn't beat our kids. Sugihiro's father looks on and is like, well, notably, there's a moment of sadness, seemingly at first. Like, he sees what I assume would be his wife in Ichika. And you have this moment where you see, like, this break in his anger, and you see the sadness in his eyes. But that sadness is very quickly replaced with rage and aggression. He goes on to say, what? Huh? What's that look for? You're the spitting image of her. Giving birth to a lousy girl and dying young on me. The Yami clan don't need a deadweight who can't fight. And notably, I'm not sure actually where he was aiming. Like, at least based on the panel, he would actually be hitting Sukihiro and not Ichika. But who knows? He could have just swung diagonally. Though we see that as he strikes down, Yami manages to rise up and block his father with a wooden blade that he did have. He did have it in his hand before. But still, I'm not sure. I highly doubt this is Yami's father going all out and like bloodlust, like, I'm going to slaughter my kids. Like, highly doubt that. Something in my heart of hearts tell me that's not how that goes. But still, the fact that Yami was able to rise up and view his seemingly wooden blade with magic and block his father's strength is pretty impressive. If I were to do something like that, would I assume Yami's probably like 14 here or something like that? I think I would have broken my arms. And yes, if you're wondering, Papa Pencil does outscale me to this day. So he's a mighty beast. So Yami is different. Yami is darn different. And we see that apparently what Yami's father believes is that the child of the Ryudo clan is going to have a whole lot of Yorioku. If only he knew. But apparently he's so confident in Yami's strength right now that he says your Yorioku is going to end up topping his. And apparently this new title that Yami is going to achieve, the title of Demon God, our clan's strongest fighter, is going to be Yami's. And notably, that's interesting. I don't know. Yami seems to have like... It's weird to compare to, right? Because just due to how Ichika's been portrayed so far in her adulthood, she's 21, I do believe. If you were to ask me on a sheer scaling front, based on Asta's own statements, actually, it's mistranslation stuff. I don't know. Like, if he really did mean, like, he wasn't in Devil Union, but he says that it wouldn't have mattered if I was in Devil Union. That's probably going to get contradicted next chapter. I don't know. At least on the scaling front, it seems like Ichika actually ended up being stronger than Yami. At least from what we've seen so far. And that's just with Z10. which Yami seemingly doesn't have access to, unless his sword strikes are also Zetan. I'm not exactly sure where he ended up imbuing that, though we see that due to the latent ability of Yami and his overflowing Yorioku, his darkness, it's rising, it's overflowing. We see that he actually lets them go. He takes Yami is allowed to, or Sugihiro. It's so weird because we know that Yami is now his surname and not his first name. But Sugihiro takes Ichika and goes fishing. And his dad, seemingly out of respect for Yami's power, doesn't actually stop him. Like, doesn't say, no, you're not allowed to do that. We're training. He says, once you get back, I'll train you some more. Interesting. Obviously, he's definitely a mean father. He does beat his kids. And admittedly, that's not good. That's not good at all. Do not smack your kids, all right? Don't do that. Talk to them. They're little human beings, and they have the capability to speak. So we do see that he lets them go. And I'm intrigued with that. Maybe it just comes from strength. Like, notably, I'm going to rate the connection to Naruto because this has already been compared to Naruto. But Itachi was also given a lot of freedom in his youth just because he was that guy. Like, everyone knew Itachi was going to be a goat, so they were like, yeah, do whatever. We don't really care. Oh, you want to take the Chunin exams on your own? Sure, whatever. Do it solo. So it does make sense that in the face of raw power and late potential, the best you can do is nurture it when it wants to be nurtured, because obviously it's going to be strong on its own. And we cut over to the Black Sea, and we see that someone withdraws a demon tiger pufferfish, and apparently it's a whopper. You don't see him much. And two, it does have horns, which once again makes me believe that this supposed 5-headed dragon was actually just an underworld beast. Though, admittedly, we have not seen multi-headed, non-humanoid underworld beast before. So I'm really interested on what the real story is. I'm assuming we're gonna get either a flashback to that or someone who actually has the Carfax. And I'm excited to see that. However, apparently this demon tiger pufferfish is mostly inedible, kind of like real pufferfish. They are very, very, very poisonous. And thusly you need a very special chef to like prepare them in the proper way so you actually can consume it without, ceasing the living, to put it nicely. And we see that apparently Sukihiro just is a natural at fishing. He's surrounded by a bunch of people, including Ichika, and they're just like, wow, that's amazing, that's crazy. Your fishing strats are out of this world. And once again, this sort of feeds into the whole idea that, like, I forget who mentioned it. I'm not sure if it was Father Nux. I think it was someone else. Was it Alex? I'm not sure. This is what happens when you watch so many anime YouTubers. It's not that they all start to blend together. They all have their own unique styles, but you hear so many topics and videos over the time that I forget who exactly said it, but someone said that Yami is like the main character of his own story that happened to end up stumbling into Black Clover, which is Asta's story now. Just because he has like he has seemingly every single beat a main character would. Like, up, he's good at everything, up, he's naturally amazing, up, he gets all the women, up, he's really, really cool, up, he has this super rare, crazy, dark magic, up, he's an outsider, up, but he's an outsider, but he's really strong and cool and everyone loves him. Like, he definitely does feel like a main character. And in the good way though, not in the bad way. And we see that while everyone's praising Yami for being him, even Ichika's like, wow, brother, wow, you're legendary. We see someone comes up. He's like, hey, what you doing? Let me in on that. And we see that the people welcome young Master Ryudo. Your clothes still are dirty. Well, no, his clothes will get dirty from the muckamire around them if he stays with them too long. However, he's like, I don't really care. I like fishing too. And this is interesting. He has both eyes revealed. He does not have one missing yet, or at least not one covered by a katana. So seemingly he doesn't have the Tengetsu that allows him to see all of the land of the sun, which makes sense because this is apparently still in the warring period, I suppose. And we see that apparently once he comes back dirty, Ryudo's retainers and caretakers are not going to be happy. And apparently we see that while Yami has a casual enough relationship with Ryudo that he just straight up calls him Ryu, like it doesn't necessarily matter, Ichika is still a bit formal around him, straight up calling him Master Ryuya. And Ryudo has to ask, like, hey, well, not Ryu. He is Ryudo, technically. But Ryuya has to ask, like, hey, you can just call me Ryu. I don't care. Street Fighter can come sue me if they want. Call me Ryu. And we see that apparently Yami believes that no matter how friendly they can pretend to be, it's not like their ranks are going to change. It's not like suddenly Yami's going to be able to be the same level, Yami or Ichigo are ever going to be the same level as the Emperor. It's just not a case where that can be. And Ryuya believes that, hey, I want this country to be a place like that, where we can all live and laugh together, no matter what your rank or your Ryoku looks like. And that's interesting. He seems like a real nice dude. So why don't I trust him? I legitimately can't tell. I don't know why, just in my heart of hearts, I feel like he's a sussy baka. Like legitimately, I feel like he's the imposter. I don't know. Something about Ryuya, it's just because of how he was introduced, what he's doing, and how strange that boy seems. Like, something seems a bit off. A little bit off. Can't tell you what, can't tell you why, can't tell you how, but it seems a bit strange. And we see that his beautiful ideals have Ichigo just blushing and smiling, and she's just clicking her heels with how happy that Lord Ryuya makes her. Meanwhile, Yami's like, get a load of this, no nothing. He talks in his sleep. And once again, I know this is the cynical approach to things, but like, I kind of agree with Yami. Like, if the circumstances of your birth determine a lot. They may not determine everything. Obviously, there are people who have got it out the mud. But, hey, it's a lot easier to succeed if you're born higher class, and it's a lot easier to fail if you were born lower class. In some cases, you don't even have to do anything if you're born high enough. You can just keep living off of previous funds from your great ancestor, and you're good to go. Meanwhile, people in lower positions can work literally 80 hours a week. Is that possible? Yeah, that's possible. People can literally work 80 hours a week and make a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction that someone just gets off like stock returns or interest and stuff like that. That just goes to show you how crazy the difference in people is today. We don't have a technical ranking system. We aren't living in a feudal society where we have lords and ladies and stuff like that. No, we're just people for the most part. Meanwhile, in Yami's world, in Black Clover, in the Land of the Sun, there's literally a whole ranking system. Like, Ryuya is literally the next emperor. Or at least the next leader of his province, the next lord. So, yeah, I can't blame Yami for being somewhat of a cynic here, because I'd be a cynic too if I were him. Though we do get to see that despite the cynic that is Yami, there seems to be a tiny little bit of hope. Because even Yami believes that crazy, insane in the membrane, next level dream of Ryuya's is pretty nice. It'd be cool if it came to pass. It's kind of like getting an extra chicken nugget in your 10-piece. Like, it's not required. It's unlikely. But when it happens, it brings a smile to your face. So I can definitely see why the idea of an even world for all would be nice, would be appreciated, and even nice to think of in a cynical mindset. And we see that apparently Ichigo thought the same thing. She thought that would be amazing. But apparently, due to what happened, she believes that when Yami said that, bro was grade A capping, like straight lying to her face, lying directly into her soul. Because apparently, Yami was exactly like their father was, and exactly like what their father believed. He was a demon god. Even worse than his father. And, I mean, I still don't, like, once again, I'm sort of in Asta's position, where it's like, oh, he was 13 at the time. He wasn't actually, he wasn't 14, but still, he was 13 at the time. And like, the thing is, I have the Carfax right in front of me. Like, I'm not just viewing this from Asta's perspective, where I'm being told this happened. Like, Ichika is literally being held in Ryuya's arms as he sees and she sees the massacre of their entire clan. Like, legitimately, they see Yami holding a blade, and you see him literally standing in front of the corpse of his father. Like, yeah, that's some pretty clear-cut evidence. Like, I don't think we can rebuke this one. Like, if this were Carfax.com, I think this would get a 10 out of 10 rating. Like, these are accurate Carfax. But something has to be up. Like, I'm trying to think. What could be the reason, right? Because the reason Itachi ended up slaughtering his clan was due to the fact that the Uchiha clan was trying to do a coup that would have ended up in a massive civil war with Hidden Leaf, and he was requested by Danzo and Hiruzen to be like, hey, you know, take care of that by any means necessary. And any means necessary ended up meaning slaughtering the entire clan except for Sasuke. But in that case, there's like civil war, tension, like there was reasoning for the clan to, I guess, I don't know, I still feel weird about the whole like slaughtering all the Uchiha clan, because sure, like a lot of the adults were about it, but you didn't have to slaughter all those kids, Itachi, even though admittedly in the light novels I believe it was Obito who did that, but still, Obito, you didn't have to do that, bro. But regardless, I'm wondering what Yami's reason is, right? Because obviously it's hard to deny that he did it, like unless Ichika's memories were literally altered by some external source, she literally sees her brother covered in the blood of her family members. Like, hard to rebuke that one right there. But with that being the case, there's got to be a reason. Like, Yami doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would just be like, you know what? What day is it? Tuesday? Slaughter. Like, like I don't see Yami being the kind of fellow who'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna get every last one of them. I'm actually the Mitri type B. I just completed Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Let's make that thing real life. I don't see Yami doing that. Which really makes me wonder, what's the full story? What's the full context? And why is Ichigo alive? Right? Like, if he really wanted to slaughter the whole clan, why is Ichigo there? Why is Ryudo there? And why is he covered in blood? Like, what happened here? Does he have any sort of involvement with it? Like, they were childhood friends, but what happened? And how come Ryuya still seems to hold Yami in relatively high regard, but he doesn't actually hold, well, no, but Ichigo doesn't actually hold him in high regard. What's up with that? Obviously, I would assume a younger sibling would look up towards their brother more than a best friend, at least based on the relationship that Yami and Ichigo seem to have up to this point. But maybe not. Who knows? I don't know. It's kind of, there's a whole ton of weird context stuff that's being dropped in this chapter that I think is going to be elaborated on. Obviously, Tabata is just like throwing this all at us at once to kind of like monster mash our brains and be like, hey, what could this mean? What could that mean? What could this mean? What could that mean? Like all that. But I feel like there's something shady going on here. There's definitely something that's a little bit off. A little bit off. A little bit left, a little bit right. I don't know. I can't trust this wholeheartedly just yet. And while I can trust the fact that yes, Yami did indeed slaughter his whole clan, I don't think I can trust Ichika's viewpoint that it was just, he really was a demon god. He really was evil. He really was a beast, a monster, a demon. Like, I don't think it was just, it's Tuesday, I want to challenge myself. I completed Fire Emblem 3 Houses, let's go for it. Like, I don't think this is how that works. However, with this being the case, Asta, he just like me, FR, except he's a little bit dumber than me, because as he sits there, he's like, no, Nani desu desu no. And she continues to elaborate, like, then he abandoned us and fled. And he's been living the easy life overseas with you people. Who's calling you people? Ichigo, you lucky. Let me not make that joke. But still, he's like, you trust a man like him? That makes no sense. And, admittedly, once again, from Ichigo's perspective, I can 100 million, billion, quintillion, quantrillion, omnicillion see where she's coming from, right? Like, when you have no context and you literally saw your brother do the mass unaliving of all your peoples, yeah, doesn't look too hot. I can definitely see why her trust issues, I think through the roof is kind of an understatement at this point. Like, they're probably on Mars in terms of where her trust issues are at, especially when it comes to her brother. But at the same time, but I guess that's the thing, he fled. If he truly didn't come to her and give her any reason after that, I actually cannot, despite how much I trust Yami and believe that there's at least got to be some sort of valid reason for it, I don't think, I can't blame Ichigo for not trusting him. Because why would you, if you had a good reason, you wouldn't run. Is that weird to say? Like, if you had a good reason, you would at least tell your best friend and your sister. Like, you wouldn't just be like, oh, well, deuces. I don't know. It seems very, very strange. I'm wondering. However, while I'm in here, if I was in Asta's position, I'd be having this internal mental debate where I'm like, this is a lot. This is a lot. Okay, I can't really poke or prod too much here. This is a dangerous zone to be poking and prodding in. Let me be careful here. Let me take this one step at a time and just see if I can get all the information, make sure this is the whole story, make sure I'm not missing anything. But yeah, Asta in his thick-headedness, because like he's more emotionally mature than he was before, but gosh darn is the bro a little bit thick-headed at times. He probably got a thicker head than Tanjiro on occasion. He's like, he verbalizes what I'm thinking. Like, it has to be some kind of mistake. There's no way Captain Yami would do that. I believe in the Captain Yami I've seen. And once again, I can 100%. This is a good thing though. And this is where Tabata does it really, really well, and I think it separates it from the Itachi situation, because we learned about Itachi's truth after the fact. Like, literally so far after the fact that Itachi was already dead by the time we learned about Itachi's truth. And thusly, we had him clearly in the antagonist role. Like, bro, there was no other way to take Itachi up until maybe when he came in and just tapped Sasuke's head and was like, good job, bro. Deuces. And, like, he saved him from Orochimaru. Then maybe you could be like, wait a minute. Something's not right. But up until that point, Itachi was... He was literally the mirror to pain. He was the antagonist for our deuteragonist. Thusly, we were approaching it from an angle where you kind of had to get, like, jebaited into believing that he was the antagonist. There was no one outside of the madmen who believed that Itachi was secretly a good guy all along and that he actually always loved Sasuke. Just because we know that now, just because it's commonplace now, does not mean it was commonplace before we were told that. Meanwhile, with Yami, we have the exact opposite situation. We didn't know this happened until last chapter. We've had all of this time with Yami as our hero, as our mentor, as our protagonist. Like, he's been a real cool kid, if you will. He gave our main character his motto. Literally, now I'm going to have to surpass my limits. Like, come on now, that's a bar. That's a bar. So I do think this differentiates itself from Naruto in how it's presented and the character that's presented with. Yami was never an antagonist. Now he's being put in the place of one. Meanwhile, Itachi was always an antagonist who was later put in the place of a protagonist. So that's just to get off the Naruto comparisons that I've been seeing everywhere. No, I do not think this is lazy writing. If anything, I think it's a cool twist on a concept that we may have seen before. All right? We're done with that. Now, with this being the case, as much as I believe Asta here and I agree with them, I would also believe in the Captain Yami I've seen. If I was in specifically his shoes and I didn't have Ichigo's memories. Why would you say that to her? Why would you say that to her when you know she can body bag you, bro? Like, she can blitz body bag you, bro. Why would you do this? Essentially, you looked her trauma dead in the face and said, nope, not canon. Sorry, didn't know which manga you were reading. You must have seen some anime filler, dog. That's essentially what you're saying. Like, her direct trauma, you're saying, nah, not gonna happen. Why? Because the dude I know wouldn't do that. Like, I don't, like, any real life comparison would be awful. So I'm not gonna make one. But, like, imagine you knew, here, I'll make it a weird one. It'll be weird. But, like, say, imagine you knew somebody that you constantly played fighting games with, right? Like, you would hop on Fighter, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Injustice, whatever, every single fighting game under the sun. And you've only seen them play fighting games. You only talk about them with fighting games. And anytime you bring up something else, like, let's say, like an MMO or, like, a single-player action game, something like that, they're always like, whatever. And then someone comes up to you and says that, you know, in this massive multiplayer online thing, you know, so-and-so just body bags me all the time. They're amazing, they're different, and they love the game, and they're wild in it. And they keep defeating me, and it keeps hurting, and it sucks. And then you, just the person who's only played fighting games with them, is like, no, they would never do that. Why? Because, no, they would never. Just because they wouldn't. Because that's not the one I've seen. That's not the games I've played with them. So thusly, they could never do that. Like, yeah, obviously the scale here is drastically different, but still, I hope you get what I mean. And we see that Ichika, obviously, having all of her literal trauma be written off as, nah, not canon. She's like, you know nothing. An arrogant fool. And Lieb, help your brother out. Because now he's putting himself in hot water. Because Ichigo's like, I saw it with my own eyes. It's true. And obviously, in a world of magic, your eyes are as about as trustworthy as your feet are. Because they're both pretty much worthless when it comes to data collection. However, with that being said, we see that Asta, like, admittedly, Ichika may have given him a pass here for you to shut up after this, but no, Asta he, like, took the shovel, started digging his grave, and then got a whole, like, mega dozer and just, boom, took a whole chunk out of the ground. He said, it can't be, even if you're Captain Yami's little sister, even if you were there, even if your trauma has haunted you for who knows how many years, I can't back down on this. Like, dog. You couldn't have said all that in your head. Like, you really had to verbalize this. Like, this is something that could not have gone unverbalized. You could not have left it be for a little bit longer and investigated yourself. Like, you couldn't have done anything else. You just had to press her here. Like, dog, I ain't gonna lie to you. If I was in Ichiko's position, I would have done the same thing in response to this. Because we see she narrows her eyes and she's like, you know what? I bet. In that case, prove it. Prove it. Use the strength you acquired while you were with him. I'll train you right now. And just like you wanted, I'll get serious. And we see she reaches into her kimono, pulls out a scroll that's, interestingly enough, it's covered in darkness. It's mostly dark, but it's also covered in bamboo trees. Interesting. I wonder if it's the same magical bamboo that they were dealing with earlier. Regardless, interesting design. And we see she has numerous, I'm assuming each line is probably its own individual spell. Very interesting. But we see she gets serious, and her whole body proceeds to get cloaked in darkness. And we get Dark Kyojutsu, Dark Cloaked Black Warrior. And she says, don't blame me if you die. And once again, Lieb is just vibing. Like, I get it. We can't have him talk all the time, especially when he's in such a non-serious form. But, like, he's not reacting at all. Like, at least Asta's sweating, his pupils are dilated, his eyes are small, his eyes are wide open. Like, he's at least having fear. Meanwhile, Lieb, the dude who has a union with his brother right here, is like, beautiful night air, isn't it? Like bro's acting like he's not just being threatened that he's gonna have to fight this beast, this monster, this next level creature. However, I will admit, because this is the end of the chapter, man, Tabata has been snapping with some of these designs, dog. Like, Dark Kyojutsu, Dark Cloaked Black Warrior, fire. I love the dark line going behind it. I love how it cloaks down her whole body. I love the different shading in the darkness. Like, legitimately, I don't know how Tabata and his assistants do it. Like, sometimes I look at the coloring that they do in specific, the coloring, and I'm like, how? Like, what brush did you use? I'm assuming it's digital. Like, how did you do that? What insanity? what kind of self-hatred do you have to do this to yourself? But it always turns out beautiful. Black Clover, in my opinion, has, what do you think, out of New Gen? Yeah, out of New Gen, it has the best transformations. Like, better than Seven Deadly Sins, better than Attack on Titan, better than My Hero Academia, better than any of those. Just because of how well designed they are and how great they fit each character. And a Dark Samurai definitely fits the assassins from the Yami clan. So overall, I'm really, really excited. This chapter mainly is like a sort of groundwork setting thing. Like, it's setting up why Ichigo doesn't like Yami. It's setting up a mystery of the five-headed dragon in the Dark Sea. It's sort of giving us answers, yet also giving us new questions in terms of like how this dimensional sea works, what's up with it, what ties it could possibly have to the underworld, and obviously it reveals Ichigo's next level of power, her all-out state, I suppose, with the Dark Kyojutsu, Dark Cloaked Black Warrior. Overall, I really, really like this chapter. It has so much in it. It gives so much meaty lore and backstory, and it raises so many questions. And these are questions I actually want to see answered, which makes it 10 times better. However, that's what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And hit the notification bell to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support as low as $1 a month. It gives exclusive videos, early content, and more. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Naga with a Pencil, writing off.